everybody, welcome back to Instant Gameplay. My name is Sean, and today we are continuing our countdown. This is the third chunk of games in my picks for the top 50 board games of all time. I may or may not have just lost all the footage from the last chunk of games, so I may have to refilm that. But you, of course, won't know that because, well, you do now because I'm just telling you. I guess we'll find out later. But we are continuing with the filming of this particular chunk of games, and that is, of course, number 30 through number 21. So we are exiting the lower half, and we are entering the upper half, and we're going to do that all in this chunk of games right here. So why don't you say let's just kick it off. Let's kick it off with number 30. Number 30 on my list is a modern classic, at least in my opinion, and that is a game all about trains. And that, of course, that should have given it away right there, but that, of course, is Ticket to Ride. Ticket to Ride, again, modern classic. If you've never played this game, you should. It's an amazing set collecting game. It actually won the Spiel des Jahres, which is like Game of the Year in Germany, in 2004. So this game's been around for quite a while now, and I absolutely love it. It is a set collecting game where you are trying to cover the map, in this case it's North America, with trains, completing routes that you have in front of you. They're outlined on different tickets, and you start the game with tickets, and on your turn you can either take different train cards that allow you to play cards later in your turn, or you can take cards you already have and turn them into play trains on the board. As you play the trains, your train route is going to grow, and it's going to hopefully accomplish these tickets that you have in your hand. And you can always draw more tickets throughout the game. But another thing you want to try to do is get the longest continuous train route, because if you do, you get bonus points at the end of the game. This game is so great. When my wife and I first got this game, we played it 2 or 3 times a night for 3 months straight. And that's not an exaggeration. I mean, we literally played this game to death, and we love it. You would think that would put it maybe in my top 10, but it doesn't, and that's because we didn't get bored with it. But you know, there were just other games that came out and we played, and we don't play this nearly as often as we used to. But my daughter just started getting into this one, and now I am playing it frequently again. So I think it will drop throughout the coming years as other games kind of replace this, but I don't think it will ever leave the top 50. I think it will always remain in the top 50, even if it just sticks around at number 50. But for now, it is number 30, and that is my number 30, Ticket to Ride. Number 29, we are going from trains to pirates, and that is my number 29, Libertalia. I really like this game. Now this game is 14 and up age-wise. That might be a little bit on the older side for this game, but I really do enjoy it. I don't know if you would consider this a deck-building game. I think I would consider this more of a bluffing game. But what you have is everybody starts with the same pirates in their hand. There's like 30 different pirates you can have, and you're gonna pick your pirates at the beginning of the game, and as you pick your pirates, you're going to go through on an adventure with these pirates. And you're going to play a card, and on that card will be different instructions on what you can do based on the point in the round. So if it's day or night or things of that nature. But based on playing the card, each card has a number on it, which is going to determine the order in which those cards actually get to be played. So I might have a good card, but my neighbor might have a better card, and they get to play their card first, which, yeah, it's just how the game goes. Then ultimately, after you've done all your abilities, you're going to collect treasure from your different stops on your adventure, and then those treasures translate into points, and at the end, whoever has the most points win. There's also a lot of player interaction because you can kill other players' pirates that they have, you can prevent them from doing things, you can take points away from them, and you can do other things to get yourself more points. It's a really great game. I don't play this as nearly as much as I should, and to be honest, when I was putting my list together, I thought this one would be closer into the 40s, closer to number 50. But it's not, and it isn't my number 29. It is a fantastic game. It says 2 to 6 players. I've never played it with 6. I've played it with 2 and 3. Both are really good player counts. 2 obviously is a little different. 3 is a really good player count. I've seen it played 4 players. I do think that it would play best at 4 players, but there's not much we can do about that with my particular gaming people I play games with. Between 40 and 60 minutes, that just depends on player count, just because if the more players you have, the more abilities you're going to have to go through, so that just all depends, but it's a fantastic game. As the game progresses, you are going to be adding more pirates to your particular deck of cards, but some of the pirates that you have, other players have already played, and vice versa. So your deck gets a little bit different than everybody else's. So I guess it is kind of a deck builder, but I would call it more bluffing, because you really want... You could be like, hey, I'm going to play the captain. I'm going to play the captain. No, I played a monkey. And, you know, it's just stuff, it's just silly fun like that. It's a pretty great game. Pretty fantastic little game here. If you can get your hands on it, I think it's definitely worth you checking out, especially if you like pirates. And that is my number 29, Libertalia. My number 28 is a game that I never see on anybody else's lists. I don't think I've seen it once on somebody's top 50 or top 100 or anything. I've seen it on a few top 10s, like for theming, but that's it. I haven't seen it on anybody's actually favorite games. And a little bit of backstory. Got this game on clearance at Target, super cheap, and picked it up just because it was super, super cheap. It was a Christmas present for my daughter, and it became a family game. She loves it. I didn't think I would like it, but I really, really do. It is kind of themed to a side-scrolling video game with some press your luck aspects, and that's Megaland. Believe it or not, Megaland is my number 28. In this game, again, it's supposed to resemble a side-scrolling video game. It's actually kind of cool. You are going to be going from tile to tile as they get, or their cards really, as they get flipped. And on each particular card, there might be some dangers or there might be nothing. And as you move, you're trying to get as far as you can, because everything you survive, you get to take a treasure. However, if you lose all your lives, you don't get to keep those treasures. You have to give them all back. You lose them all. So it's but at any point you can stop, but the other players can keep going. Then what you do is you can take the treasures that you have and you can turn them in and buy different buildings. And those buildings allow you to do other things in the game. They allow you to, you know, if you lose a life, here's a free life. It allows you to get some extra points each time you use this particular building, or anytime something happens. It just gives you an extra point during the day phase or the night phase. And the first one to 20 points wins. So it's really easy game. It's by Red Raven Games. It is 2 to 5 players. And we've only ever played it with 2 players. I've never played it 3 or 4, but I'm sure if I did, I'd probably like it and it probably would go up for me. Ages 8 and up, really easy game for kids. Super easy game, and the artwork is really cool. I really like the artwork in this game. There's like, my daughter always likes playing as the cat. There's a cat person, you can't see it on the cover, but there's a cat. And then there's a frog character that I like playing as, or sometimes I'll play as this little crazy guy over here. But you know, it's just part of the game. It's super, super fun. And it is, they say 20 minutes to play. In a 2-player game, I'd say that's pretty accurate, 20 to 30 minutes. I'm assuming if you added more players, you probably would add time, just because people are using buildings and, you know, pressing your luck, and it would require a little more conversing with the group. But it's a really great game. Really good, lightweight filler game, just to, you know, if you have a half hour to kill between heavier games. It's a good one. If you like press your luck games, also a very good one. And that is my number 28, Megaland. My number 27, some of you might be having some deja vu. We just talked about a game that is pretty much the same game, except not really, because this game adds more stuff. And maybe in future years I'll combine the 2 games into one number, but not this year. This year, this version gets its own separate number because I like it that much. And that is my number 27, Ticket to Ride Europe. We just talked about Ticket to Ride. Ticket to Ride Europe plays very much the same as far as collecting train cards to complete routes and ultimately get the most points with longest route and some other things. But this version of the game adds some other things to it. And I didn't mention this, but Ticket to Ride and Ticket to Ride Europe both are put out by Days of Wonder. And if you want a beautiful game, even if the game is horrible, Days of Wonder makes beautiful games. Just, they're gorgeous. And I absolutely love it. And in this particular version, it also adds train stations and ferries, which are just great. Great additions. If you want to go through, and they add tunnels, I think, as well. And as you go through these different things, you're going to be drawing more cards, pressing your luck a little bit, trying to having to play more cards potentially that you don't want to play. It just adds another level of strategy to the game. And it's also on a European map. So if you're a fan of geography, Ticket to Ride has a bazillion maps out there. But these are the only two I've actually played. Just because there are other games out there, and for the longest time I was under the false assumption that if you played one Ticket to Ride, you played them all. Not true. Don't listen to former, me in the past. That's not true. However, this game, I feel, is different enough where this year it's going to get its own number. Like I said, in future years, it might I might just lump them all together and say pick the one you like the best. But not this year. This year it's going to be its own, my number 27. And yeah, Ticket to Ride Europe is, what, do they have a 2 to 5 players and 8 and up? And the other one says that as well. This one, my daughter played Ticket to Ride First Journeys, which is the junior version, and she had the Europe map. And I did that on purpose because I wanted her to get used to the European map before we jumped to Ticket to Ride Europe. We will get to Ticket to Ride Europe with her. I just don't think geographically she's there quite yet. Maybe within the next year or so we'll give this a shot. But it's a fantastic game. If you like Ticket to Ride, I think you'll really enjoy Ticket to Ride Europe, and that's why it just edges it out by a couple games. My number 27, Ticket to Ride Europe. My number 26 is a worker placement game themed after one of the most popular, actually I would say the most popular role-playing games of all times, Dungeons & Dragons, and that is Lords of Waterdeep. Lords of Waterdeep, again, worker placement game, really great worker placement game. And in this game, you are going out, sending your workers out to different locations around Waterdeep, which is a location within the Dungeons & Dragons universe. And you are sending them out to do many different things. You can send them out to complete quests, and ultimately you want to complete different quests because that's what's going to score you points. But you can send them out to get more quests, you can send them out to get different resources, send them out to buy buildings and build them. You can even send them out just to get money, and it's absolutely great. What sets this game apart from other worker placement games is one of the locations is Waterdeep Harbor. And if you send someone to that location, you get to play a card. And that card could be good for you, it could be bad for others, it could just be bad for others. There could be, I'm going to send you on this quest that you have to fulfill before any other quests that you actually have chosen, which is just a phenomenal thing. It also can give you other things like resources and money. It can give other people the same things though, so you want to be careful with that. But because of that little aspect of Waterdeep Harbor, and then at the end of Waterdeep Harbor, after you've played your card, you can take that meeple that you have and put it on another location that's open, which is fantastic. It really just allows you to build action upon action upon action and just do very big things with this game that you couldn't necessarily do in other worker placement games. And you will see more worker placement games on my list because I love that mechanic. The game itself, it says ages 12 and up. That's probably accurate, maybe 10 and up if they can understand and do a lot of the reading and understand the, Dungeons & Dragons universe. It says 60 minutes. Yeah, that's probably about right. 60 minutes, probably a good hour to play this game. With 4 players, and I played it with 2, 3, and 4 players. It is 2 to 5 players. I played it with 2, 3, and 4 players, and it's awesome. It's awesome. And with those higher player counts, it does add a little bit of time, but it really doesn't. The game flows pretty quickly. So yeah, I really enjoy this game, and it just misses the top half of my list. It kind of ends the lower half, but it does miss that top half. I don't know why. We do have other worker placement games that you will see later in the list that kind of replace this for us. We would choose those over this one. But every once in a while we do bring this guy out. We just had my brother-in-law play it for the first time a couple months ago, and he seemed to like it. And so that kind of got him to play other worker placement games, and we're kind of, adding those on to him. This is one my wife will play. She does like this one a lot. And I personally really like it, and that is why it is my number 26, Lords of Waterdeep. All right, we are now into the top 25 games of the list, the top half, the best of the best. Well, not the best of the best, but it's really the top half, and you will see that. We're going to kick it off with number 25 right here. This number 25 is another game that when I told people I was doing this list, they said this game better be in your list. And it is. In fact, it kicks off the top 25. It is the original deck builder. I don't know if you'd say the original. I say the original. The original deck builder. Dominion. I love Dominion. Again, it's a deck builder. In this game, you are basically, there's a, I don't want to say grid, but for lack of a better term, there's a grid of cards on the table. And you are starting with just 10 cards to start the game with. I believe it's 10 cards. And you play those cards in a turn. You draw 5 cards and you play them. Those cards will allow you to eventually buy the other buildings and other cards that are available on the table. You then take those cards, put them in your discard pile. Once you've played through all of your deck, you now have more cards in your deck that is different from everybody else at the table. You can then use the cards you've purchased in future turns. And those cards allow you to do all sorts of different things. They allow you to hurt the other player sometimes. They allow you to gain extra money that you can buy with. They also allow you to take extra turns, extra actions. What's really cool is when you get this, I mean, this game is a deck builder at its core, but I would also say an engine builder a little bit, because if you can get certain cards, you can just get an engine going, and you can say, I'm going to play this card, which allows me to take this action, which allows me to do another action, which allows me to do another action, which just allows you to go through your entire hand of cards, sometimes half your deck. I've seen people play 15, 16, 17, 18, almost 20 cards in one turn because of the engine they build. And it seems a little unfair, but when you're doing it, you're like, man, this is just hilarious, but it's a fun aspect of the game. So ultimately, you are buying more cards, and what you're doing is trying to buy the top buildings, which give you a lot of points, and you want to have the most points at the end of the game. And there are a couple different ways the game can end. It's either when one stack of cards is gone, if 3 specific buildings are gone. There's a couple different ways. But once the game ends, you tally up your points, and whoever has the most points is the winner, and all those points are printed right on the cards. It's a really great game. This is not the last deck builder you're going to see. And I know I say that for a lot of these, this is not the last type of game you're going to see, but really, this is a great gateway game to get people into deck building. If you like deck builders, but somebody else isn't into deck building, show them Dominion, because if they like Dominion, you can then throw other games on top of the principles which this game teaches. And that's what I love about Dominion. It is, in my opinion, the original deck builder, and it is one of the best deck builders in my opinion because it's so simple. There are a million expansions for this as well. I don't own any of them. I've played a couple of them. I don't own any of them just because when I get together with people, they tend to have them, so why do I need to buy them if they have them? We play it that way. Really great game. The base game is fine too. It does get a little samey after a while with just the base game, but like I said, add a couple expansions or two, 1 or 2 expansions, and you're good for a while. There are people who have every single expansion out there, and they can't even use the boxes these come in because they have so many cards. They have to like makeshift their own game boxes, and I love seeing that. It's so cool. But yeah, this is just a phenomenal game. My number 25, Dominion. My number 24 is a game that I don't see on a lot of people's lists, and I think it's just because of how long the game takes. It is quite a lengthy game, but it is another worker placement game by Stronghold Games, and that is Village. Village is a great game, and it is a worker placement game, and what's unique about this game is you are playing as a family, and of generations of family in a village. And you start with your meeples with the number 1 on them. That 1 represents your first generation of your family. As you play, you're going to get meeples with 2, 3, and 4 on them, which represents the second, third, and fourth generation. As you play throughout the game, the meeples that you started with the first and second generation, they're going to pass away. They are going to die. And as they die, one of 2 things is going to happen. They're either going to end up in the legacy book. I don't know if that's what it's called, but we call it that. It's the Village Legacy Book of, remembrance. And that recognizes that meeple did some good things in their life, and they're going to score you bonus points. However, they also could end up just in the unmarked grave. And if that's the case, they probably didn't make the correct choices in life, and they don't score you anything. And that's you know, that's just how life goes sometimes. But it is a worker placement game, so you're going to be placing these guys out into the different spots on the village. You can send them out to the market to buy materials. You can send them out to the church and make them religious. You can send them into politics. You can send them out on a journey and they can travel. Very, very cool game. This is one where I think the age is a little exaggerated. It says 2 to 4 players. That's obvious, you know, I can't change that. 60 to 90 minutes, depending on player count. And it says 12 and up, and I think that's just because you're literally killing off people. You know, you have to make choices on when that is. And the cool thing about this game is you have a little board in front of you that not only keeps all your stuff that you accumulate throughout the game, but has a time track on there. So as you do things throughout the game, it's going to say, all right, that takes 3 time. And it goes around the board. And when your little token gets all the way to the top again, that's when you have to kill somebody. So it's a very, very cool way of spending time in the game. But anyway, my daughter plays this. We've played this for a couple years. She's fine with it. It's not a hard worker placement game. Very, actually, to be honest, it's maybe one of the more, I don't want to say the most simple worker placement games, but it's up there. It's not overly complicated. She loves this game. Maybe it's 12 and up just because of that. There is an expansion to it. I don't own the expansion. I've never played it. This is by Stronghold Games, like I said. Really, really great game. My number 24, Village. My number 23 is a great semi-cooperative game. And I say semi-cooperative game because at some point in the game, someone's probably most likely, almost definitely, going to be a traitor. Another horror-themed game, and that is by Plaid Hat Games' Dead of Winter. Really great game. If you like zombie movies, Walking Dead, that kind of stuff, this is the game for you. It is a fantastic game. Just played this a couple weeks ago with my wife, her brother, and her sister. And although somebody in that group didn't care for the game, they shall remain nameless. That's okay because I still love this game. Although we played it wrong. Full disclosure, I was making up the deck to make the traitor, and I accidentally put 2 traitor cards in there. So my brother-in-law and I both ended up being the traitor, which you're not supposed to happen. It didn't make any difference to the outcome of the game because we all still lost, but the fact that there were 2 traitors in the game when there wasn't supposed to be was very funny. But in the game, you are a colony of survivors, and you're going out to other locations throughout this, basically a city, kind of an abandoned city, like the gas station, a grocery store, a school, a library, police station, and you're trying to collect useful items to not only help the colony, but there is a main objective that you need to complete in order to win the game. You also each have a secret objective that you need to complete to win the game, which means that you could complete the main objective, but if you don't have your secret objective, it doesn't matter. You have to have both to complete. Those secret objectives is where the traitor comes in. When you deal out those cards at the beginning of the game, you're going to add 1 more card than there are players. So if there's a 4-player game, you're going to have 5 cards in that draw pile. And one of them is going to be a traitor card. Should be 1 card, should be a traitor card. Don't do what we did. So there might not be a traitor, but odds are there will be. I've only played this once where there was not a traitor, and it was really funny because we're still making accusations towards each other. You can also exile players and kind of boot them from the game. And it doesn't eliminate them from the game, it just kind of gives them other things to do, but they have to reveal their card. And when you're playing, you always forget that you can exile people. So the traitor ends up doing well because you forget that. And that's just kind of how it was. I was trying to push for an exile vote to get my brother-in-law out. I would have been right. I thought I was the traitor, so I was trying to push him out. I guess it's a good thing that they didn't go for that vote because then we would have realized there were 2 traitors at the beginning of the game. But that having been said, also in the game is a really cool system called a Crossroads deck. And in that deck, it just adds more flavor and more story to the game. Very, very cool. It is a cooperative game. You are working together, but like I said, there's that traitor, and it's great. If you like horror games, this is a good one for you. Very, very good game. It is a little bit on the longer side. It's 60 to 120 minutes. It depends on the scenario and the main objective you pick. There are short, medium, and long objectives. So it depends on the one you pick. I usually go for a medium game because that normally sets at about an hour and a half. It's a good time. We sometimes do a shorter game, which is about 60 minutes. 13 plus, that I would say is accurate for me just because of the the flavor of the game. You know, it's zombies, people are dying, people are getting murdered left and right. There is possibly some language in this game, you know, so 13 plus is accurate, and 2 to 5 players. In a 2-player game, I wouldn't recommend because you're not going to be playing with a trader. You can't with a 2-player game. But 3 to 5 players is accurate. It plays best at 4 players. It really does, and that would be what I'd recommend. That my wife and my brother-in-law, this is like his favorite game. He actually asks to play this one. My wife really enjoys that one too, and the 3 of us play. We really enjoy this one. So that is my number 23, Dead of Winter. My number 22 is what some people consider a party game, some people consider it a family game. I consider it both, and I really enjoy it. Actually, it's funny. So growing up where I live in the Midwest, and I don't know about anybody else, but if you've heard of this, there's a card game out there called BS, and that's literally what the game is called. It's called BS, and that is this game, but this has a Robin Hood theme to it. And my dog is scratching at the door. I don't know if you guys can hear that. But Sheriff of Nottingham is my number 22. Literally the card game BS. If you've never heard of that game, just look it up. It's this. This is what that game is, but it's played with a regular deck of playing cards rather than all of this. So when I first heard about this game, I'm like, oh, come on. Really? There's no way that game is going to be good, because it's just based on this little dinky card game that I played when I went camping as a kid. No, this game is great. I played it. I love it. It's so good. I love it so much. It's my number 22, and I didn't think it would ever hit that. My version is by, who did this one? Arcane Wonders, but it was just re-released as a second edition. I think that's by a different company, so you can find that one. It's part of the Dice Tower Essentials, so you know it's good. If the Dice Tower Essential says it's good, if it's a Dice Tower Essential, you know it's good. So basically in this game is one person takes on, you guys take turns taking on this role, but one person takes on the role of the Sheriff of Nottingham. Everybody else are citizens of Nottingham, and you are trying to get through the checkpoint that the sheriff has set up, and you are trying to get your goods through to sell them in town. And inside the game comes with a ton of different cards of different goods and contraband, and you have a little bag, and inside that bag you're going to put different cards, and you're going to tell the sheriff, I have 4 pieces of cheese in this bag, or I have 3 chickens, or 2 breads, or whatever, but you have to claim a single type of goods. Well, I could be telling the truth. In fact, that's the whole point of the game. It's a bluffing game. I could be telling the truth, but I'm probably not. I'm probably not telling the truth. I probably got a crossbow or some pepper in there or something. And I'm trying to get that through because those score me more points at the end of the game. The sheriff has to decide if we are telling the truth or lying. He can choose to check our bag or not check our bag. Now, obviously, he might want to check all of our bags just because, hey, I got to check to make sure that no contraband's coming through. However, if he checks it and we were telling the truth, then he loses money. He loses points, and that's not good. If he checks it and he finds that we're lying, he finds contraband, he gets to take that away and then we owe him money. And that's never good. However, the game, what really makes this game great is kind of the stories that unfold as you play. Some people just really take on the role of the sheriff, and I love it when they do. It's fantastic. It's absolutely fantastic. Trying to figure out how to get that contraband through, and you can bribe the sheriff. You can be like, you don't want to check that bag. I mean, you could check that bag, but why would you want to? Here's 5 coins for your trouble. And then he might think, hey, I'm going to get more coins by the bribe than if I do opening that bag. But maybe you were telling the truth the whole time. You want him to check that bag, and that bribe is saying, I am lying, but here's the coins. And maybe he could get away with checking that bag anyway. It's very, very fun. Very, very good fun. Some people consider it a party game. Some people consider it a family game. I consider it both types of games. My number 22, Sheriff of Nottingham. And finally, number 21 on my list, rounding out this chunk of 10, is a really cool game about traveling through Japan. And I love it. It's so elegant, and that is Takaido. This particular version is by Funforge, which is a great little company that does games. Basically what you are doing in this game is you are traveling throughout Japan. You are going across it. Basically it looks like a timeline, but you're going through the different things and you can stop and go. You're trying to have the best vacation you can, essentially. It's a little more complicated than that, but you can stop and, you know, go shopping. You can stop at the temple and give regards to the gods, because that's always important. You can stop at the hot springs and bathe with monkeys, which is always a good time. So there's different things you can do. You can stop and finish those Japanese mural paintings that you've been meaning to finish, which is fun. But as you go throughout the game, you're going to go on this timeline. Now, the trick is that every once in a while you're going to get to a checkpoint. And when you get to that checkpoint, it's considered a hotel. You're going to stop at that hotel and you're going to eat some food. And you're going to take the food up, and there's only so many cards that you can look at, and you're going to say, I want that food. And then somebody else is going to come up. So you can spend more time going through the different locations throughout that chunk of the game, but then you might not get as much good food at the end. And you have to eat, so you want to make sure you're getting good food, because that is a very important part of the game. And then what's really cool is the last person on the timeline gets to move first. So if you're in last and there's a bunch of spaces, you could stop at all of those and just keep going, which is really, really cool little first player mechanic in this game. Yeah, this game is just awesome. My daughter really likes this game. It's actually a very quick game. It only plays in maybe 45 minutes. That's what the box says. I think that's pretty accurate. With 4 players, it does take a little bit longer, but not very much. You're not going to play this for more than an hour, and that's on the very long end of the game. 2 to 5 players, I wouldn't recommend with 5. That's a lot. But 3 to 4, 2 is fine too. I play with 2 players all the time. But 2 to 4 is really great. Ages 8 and up. Couldn't be more accurate. My daughter loves this game. I think it would, I don't know if this would hit her top 10. For sure her top 20. I don't know if it would hit her top 10. But it's a great, great game. And that is my number 21. The last game of this chunk, Takaido. And that's going to do it for this chunk of the games. We are now going to be in our top 20 games of all time. We are over halfway done with the top 50, and that's insane. We already touched on some amazing games, and there's so many more amazing games that we have to go through. So if you like what you see, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and ring the bell icon so you can be the first to know when new videos are available right here on Instant Gameplay. This has been Sean for Instant Gameplay. Thanks for watching.